And we are live. But are we really live? I think this should be on. Can't see a notification pop up. Do we have? We do. Good. And I think the mic's working. Yes, indeed. The live stream is indeed live. Not that there'll be anyone in here usually. Hello there. The once in every, I don't know, 7 years that I actually do a live stream. Hey, people are coming in. It actually helps when you put it to public rather than unlisted. So it's like, you are live. Howdy. 8 people in already. It's not bad. I was going to do a video today, but then I couldn't be bothered. So I thought, well, may as well do a live stream. It's about that time of the decade. And I do want to cover, a couple of people have sent me messages about, oh, and also, can you hear me all right? I'm using the mic, but it's over here. The news, well, potential news, we already talked about it on Discord, of the Lotus being mapped for Gran Turismo, or possibly for Gran Turismo. A GT4 model Lotus. Of course, Ronan. Glad they help out. I personally do think, for those who have seen it, that the Lotus is more likely to be for Gran Turismo than Forza. But we'll have to see, I guess. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, what was it, a Lotus Evora or something? Or I can't remember what it was. It was one of the Lotus GT4 cars. They posted that it had been mapped, or like not rendered. What is it? Where they capture the car. For Jordan's question, or not really a question, but I don't know what cars are arriving in the next update. No, I don't even know when it is. But we have a general idea from the leaked data mining list what certain cars should be, and some of them are still coming out, like the C5 Corvette recently. Obviously, that was in the list. But aside from that, I mean, the Ferrari 812 was in the list. The C5 Corvette was in the list. What were the other 2 cars? Oh, the Suzuki Carry. I don't think the Suzuki Carry was in there. We do have a couple of other of those like weird meme cars, like the Renault Aventime is supposed to be coming at some point. Another one's like the Toyota Alphard. Was it the Alphard? Yeah, I think it was the Alphard. That was part of the list. So we knew that there were a couple of weird ones coming, but it just took a while to actually get them. Kaz also posted, I think it was today, somebody again posted it on the Discord, that Kaz has driven recently some 1,500 horsepower car. That could mean anything. It could mean he was just doing it for the fun of it. It could mean it's coming to the game. If it is something he's just driven, then we know it's not coming to the game anytime soon. T-shirt. Most of my T-shirts are custom. I make them for myself. This one's a custom one. Obviously, it's the Howmet TX, the only turbine car to ever win a race. Obviously, that makes it my favorite turbine car. I can't remember where I ordered the T-shirt, though. I think it might have been TeePublic, maybe, but I don't actually sell them. I just make a custom design, order it myself, and then take the design off. It's a good way of having your own custom shirts. Yeah, in Gran Turismo, there's not a huge amount of hypercars, I guess. The most notable one is definitely the Valkyrie. The FTO is a bit of a weird one not to have. It's up there with stuff like the DC5 Integra in terms of like, why would it not already be in the game? And why would it not already be a premium? The FTO was more of a weird one as well because it was in GT6 and it was kind of a premium. It was a bit like the Plymouth Superbird at the time, where it looked like a premium, but then it just didn't have an interior. I seem to recall that you could put a carbon bonnet on the FTO as well, which was a bit weird, not being a premium. The M5 is supposed to be coming back. That was part of the leaked list. And the RS6. The RS6 was a bit of a weird one, though, because the RS6 was in the leaked list, but it's not the V10 one, and it was the wagon. So, again, the one that we used to have, the 4.2 V8, but it's the Avant version. I don't remember if the RS4 was in there or not, but it'd be cool to have the wagon. I mean, I don't understand why they'd go for the V8 rather than the V10, especially when the V10 was already a premium, and I think more people would probably be happy with the V10, but a bit weird. I love the Di Tommaso P72. In my opinion, it is probably my third favorite modern supercar design, I would say. In my opinion, the most beautiful modern supercar is the Maserati MC12. The second most beautiful, for me at least, is the Pagani Zonda F, and I'd probably put the Di Tommaso at number 3, I think. It's a refreshingly 2000s looking car, where these days everything's starting to look the same. Although I will say, this is one of the things I actually had down to talk about. I've found myself really liking Lotus a lot more, but more specifically their electric stuff. I'm starting to really like it lately. What about the Evo 7? Yeah, I mean, the Evo 7's the only Evo I've actually had in real life. I had the GTA, and I bought it because of Gran Turismo. It's the one with the automatic gearbox, the Tiptronic buttons on the steering wheel, and mine had the GSR visual kit, so it had the bonnet intakes, the big wing, big exhaust. It was visually fairly standard aside from that. Original wheels, all finished in Scotia white, with about standard horsepower, I believe, like 270 horses. That's on the channel a few years ago. It was a fun car, but fuel economy was just ridiculous. Insanely bad for what it is. But yeah, I'd love to see an Evo 7 in the game. I feel like the Evo 7's a bit of an unloved car now. Not many people like it that much. Congrats, Solace, on getting P1 in sport mode. I can't say I've done much sport mode stuff, aside from I tend to do the seasonal events, just because it's like I only aim for like silver. I don't even bother going for the gold most of the time, and that's like an easy 1,000,000 credits. A great car for somebody who's just got their license. That I actually do have some advice for, because the advice I would give, technically I waited a bit longer before getting my license, so it doesn't quite apply, because obviously the older you are, the better your insurance is anyway. But 2 things: buy a car that young people don't buy. So in my case, my first car was an SUV, or a 4x4. It was a Volkswagen Touareg, which obviously young people don't buy that. But also buy a diesel, because diesels don't tend to be boy racist cars. There are some like the Skoda VRS, but mostly insurance companies tend to assume that you're not going to race it. And also, my advice would be try and get an older car, like a classic. But the problem with that is, at least here in the UK, you can't insure a classic when you're like 17. So it depends how old you are. Although a friend of mine, he's got a Lincoln as well. and he's like 19, or he might be 20 now, but he's had like 2 Lincolns already, and I think he has classic insurance on those, so sometimes you can get around it. But yeah, get a car that people don't usually have, and definitely a diesel, or in my opinion, definitely a diesel. Hi Kimmy, glad you enjoy the tunes. Cheers. Nissan Cube is pretty cool though, to be fair. I love the Nissan Pal. That's like legitimately one of my favorite JDM cars. I keep going back and forth on getting one, but could the Espace F1 and the TVR come back? Of the two, I would say the TVR probably has a better chance. And the reason why I say that is because of 2 things. One, there's that company who make, I can't remember what they're called. It's like TR Performance or something, but they make that twin turbo version, like the reimagined Speed 12. I saw one of those in person at Goodwood. Definitely doesn't look as good as the original, but it's cool. And the second reason why I think it actually could happen is because there is a company, I don't recall who it was, who are, if not currently, they are soon going to restore the Scania liveried blue and yellow Speed 12. I think it was the same one where the front end flew off in its first race and they didn't complete the race. So they have been restoring that, or they're going to restore that. So technically, if they wanted to map an actual Speed 12, they could use that one. But that would obviously be the race car. The Espace, obviously, I would love that to happen, but I don't know. The Espace, I don't see it happening anytime soon. It's in a museum, so they should be able to access it pretty easily, but I could actually see Forza having the Espace F1 before Gran Turismo in a funny kind of way. Howdy Driff. Yeah, Porsche 944. Yeah, here in the UK, the 924 is dirt cheap as well. I almost got one of those a few months. Well, actually, I'm saying a few months ago. As Driff knows, my concept of time isn't exactly the most reliable. I'm like, so 1 episode ago, and it's like 7 years ago in the series. But the Celica I had, the 1978 Toyota Celica, I thought about swapping that, and I almost did, for a Porsche 924, and they are very, very cheap. They do suffer from a lot of rust though, because I think the metal's quite thin on those, and they do tend to be a bit unloved. But yeah, go for a 944 if you can afford it. Pretty cool. E46. Yeah, I think the problem you're going to have with a Beamer E46, mostly as a first car, because I haven't owned a Beamer. Obviously, I've driven multiple Beamers, but I haven't actually driven an E46. Come to think of it, but the problem is how they're perceived, because insurance don't care what kind of driver you are; they care about what kind of driver owns that car. So it's based on the vehicle's history, at least in the UK. I don't know how other countries do it. So if you buy an E46, that car has a certain history with it, and that history is drifting, getting wrecked. It's like the Mustang leaving car meets of the UK world. So if it has that kind of reputation, it's kind of like, Citroen Saxo VTR or Corsa VXR. These vehicles have a certain reputation, and that can work against you. Infinity. I'm trying to think, I guess, yeah, we do have Infinity, don't we, in Gran Turismo, but I think it's just the Vision GT at the moment, which I don't mind. I think it's a gorgeous looking car, but and yeah, I mean, I'm giving advice on a sensible first car. Meanwhile, my first car was insane, as is pretty much every car I've had since. But yeah, my actual advice, I guess, if you want to base it on what I actually did, is when I finished college, I could not find work. Like, I finished college in 2013, and that was right around like the financial depression, I believe it was, or something like that, the financial crisis. And I could not find decent work. The only work I could find was like 2 or 3 months, and I definitely couldn't afford a car at that point. So instead of trying to afford a car or buying something trash, I just thought, I'm just going to wait and get something I actually want to keep. So I didn't even pass my test until I was 24, which for most people, that's not an option. You can't wait that long. But for me, I was fortunate where I only looked for work that was within like a walking, bus, or cycling distance. So up to like, an hour, a couple of hours travel. And then I just put my money into that kind of travel. Bicycle's pretty cheap, for example. And then when I got to the point that I could comfortably get a car, I paid less than $5,000 for my first car, which, if you think about it, sounds like a lot. But if you compare that to what most first people's car is, when you're like 17, you could buy your car for 10 quid, but then you're going to be paying like $3,000 to insure it anyway. So $5,000 actually isn't that crazy. Have I got the Syrian? Yes, Joseph, I do still have the Syrian. It is parked out the front at the moment. It's just past 103,000 miles now. So I've done 10,000 miles on it at this point. It's coming up on its second MOT this year in a couple of months. I think June or July. So yeah, by my standards, I've had it for a long time. Um, Driff is asking about when I'm getting a Porsche Panamera, and he's asking that because he absolutely despises the Porsche Panamera, and he hates that I love the Porsche Panamera. And in my opinion, the Porsche Panamera is probably the single best car I've ever driven in an all-round sense. Jokes aside, I have thought about getting one, but if I were to get one at the moment, because at the moment I work, thankfully, outside of YouTube, and I do a lot of driving outside of YouTube. You don't tend to tell because obviously YouTube videos release at about the same time, but I'm going to be doing even more driving, which won't really affect the YouTube schedule because you can't tell. But for the longer term stuff, I was looking into more of a motorway car because at the moment I travel about 45 minutes, and obviously the Daihatsu is perfect for that. But then the longer distance that's coming up is going to be more like an hour and a quarter, hour and 20 minutes up and down the motorway. So I'm thinking of getting maybe in the longer run, because as good as the Daihatsu is, it's not a motorway car. It's doing like 3,500 revs at 60 miles an hour, like the whole way down the motorway. And plus, I don't want to run the Daihatsu into the ground. I want to keep it good. So I was thinking of like a Panamera diesel, or what I'm most likely, I think, going to go for is basically between three. Panamera diesel, problem is they cost a bit more than what I would want to pay. Like even a diesel one with high mileage is still like 10, 12 grand. I don't really want to pay that much for a daily runabout. So I'm thinking between two, really. Either an Alpina D3, which I've reviewed, that's based on the E90 series, BMW 3 Series, like the E92 M3 was, but it's the Alpina diesel version. I reviewed one actually way back in Beards and Cars. Those are very cheap. Those are kind of bargain heroes. But what I'm probably going to go for is a car which I've raved and raved about, but never actually owned, which is the Jag XJ. The last of the old man's Jags, which is the aluminium body, where it's still got that long, sweeping Jag shape. You know, like when you think of a Jag, you think of that. And you can buy them for like 4 or 5 grand. And 2.7 diesel, perfect car. Ideally, either black or dark green. That would suit me just fine. 45 to the gallon up and down the motorway. Perfect car. Looks gangster anyway. Yeah, I've never been a fan of the Porsche 928, to be honest. I don't like the 928. I'm not a huge fan of the 924 or the 92 or the 944 either, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of front engine Porsches generally. But the one I really don't like, and I know some people do, and you never see them, is the 968. That's just such a weird looking car to me. It's kind of like a 928 at the front and then a 944 at the back. It just doesn't do it for me. I don't mind the 914. That's a bit of a weird little one. Which track would I want to come back to GT? Come back? Well, I guess that could include original or real circuits. Yeah, Monaco's a good call, Jordan. I can't say I do much driving on Monaco personally because it's very tight for overtaking. So I enjoy it on its own, but for racing, I don't really enjoy Monaco that much. It's great for jumping out of the track, though. That was one of my oldest videos on the channel back from the potato cam days. For original circuits, without question, Seattle is the one I would want back. But I seem to recall people saying like there's issues with that, like Seattle's roads I think are different now or something, where the map wouldn't look the same. And obviously Seattle in the way it was wouldn't suit Gran Turismo because they're trying to make everything more like grounded at the moment. So having like a triple jump in a Formula car or something, it's just not realistic. So even if it did come back, I think it would be garbage. If anything, New York would probably have a better chance than Seattle. But for me, that would be my choice. For real circuits, Infineon for me. And again, it's not called Infineon. What's it called now? Sonoma, is it? I think. But yeah, I love that track. I do think Apricot Hill has a really good chance. The two original tracks that I think have the best chance are Apricot Hill and Midfield. And I will keep holding that torch until it never happens. Could I imagine visiting the Autostadt in Wolfsburg? I know the name. I don't know what that actually is. Is that the Volkswagen test course or something? I'm not sure. Is that like the huge oval, like the Nardo circuit kind of thing? I'm not sure. Any more changes to the Syrian? Have I made any more? I've added some stickers. I think those stickers are already on it, like the driver's names and all that. It's got the mud flaps front and rear. It's got the exhaust done, which I did the video for that. What else? It's got rally lights now on the front. I took the fog lights out and it's got some IPF performance rally lights. If you Google Daihatsu Syrian rally car, one of the images that comes up has the exact lights that I've got. which are like the white plastic cover rally lights down at the bottom. One of my favorite things, actually. They're so bright that you can turn off the main beams and just turn on the rally lights, and they're as bright as the main beams. Look a bit different. Yeah, I do look different now. Yeah, I've lost a huge amount of weight since when I would have last done a video. I don't know what I was in pounds. Most people do pounds, but here in the UK, we do more like stone or kilos. The Bugatti Tourbillon, I like it. I do think it's a bit of a stupid name. I get it, the watch and all that, but yeah, I don't know. I think I would have preferred it if they went down the Veyron route and gave it like a driver's name. Because what was he? Pierre Veyron, I think. I think having like a race driver's name behind it makes more sense. But sure. I love the engine. I love the fact that it's got that V16 instead of a W. It feels to me like I like the Tourbillon for the exact same reason why I like the Di Tomaso. It's a car which deliberately goes against the grain. Like Bugatti could have gone, full hybrid or full electric and W18 like the older Chiron concept was, and just keep moving forward faster and faster like Hennessy and everyone else is. But instead they made a very deliberate choice to do more of like a Pagani thing of being like, no, we're not going to try and make it the fastest. We're actually going to take a step back and kind of make it slower, but make it more engaging. And to me, that's the point of a supercar anyway. So it should be engaging to drive. So I like that they did that. I just don't really like the name. And I also hate the grille. I think it looks like Peppa Pig. It's a hideous looking car in my opinion. GMA, sure, I guess they could arrive in Gran Turismo. We got McLaren in there already. And in GT6, I believe they reference the Brabham fan car. So they do kind of have a lot of Gordon Murray's world. I would say that the fan car probably has the best chance, the T50, but I mean, we'll have to see. It would be a very OP choice, probably more OP than the Valkyrie even. Tips for choosing a classic. I feel like I'm a bit biased because I'm very much a classic American kind of guy, obviously. Speaking of which, I'm actually getting a new American classic tomorrow. And it's from a brand that I haven't had before. I'm actually, I guess actually that's some big news to put on the live stream. I'm getting rid of the Rolls. I had the Rolls up for sale for a little bit, but yeah, I'm letting the Rolls go. I'm actually swapping it for a new car. Obviously, technically that's a bit of a loss on money, but I'm getting a 67 Pontiac, which I almost got in the past. It's not a Firebird. I can't stand Firebirds. I'm getting a Pontiac Bonneville, and it's a very special Bonneville because it's come from California. I'm going to be its first UK owner, and it's lived a bit of a weird life. I haven't actually seen it in person yet, so obviously I haven't fully committed, but they're delivering it here and taking the Rolls back with them because it is a dealership. They're actually, the dealer's called Hill Farm Automotive, if you want to check them out. They're mostly on eBay. And for those of you who remember some of my past cars, I used to have a Lincoln Premier, the enormous white and gold one, Merry Todd, as I called it, from 1960. It's the same dealership I got that car from. And they're going to have my Rolls up for sale, presumably in future. So I don't know how much they're going to sell it for, but if it's anywhere around 15 grand, maybe, because I put it up for sale on Facebook for a while for 17,500. And obviously that's nowhere near what I spent on it. But the problem is, and I've said this at car shows, because I took the Rolls to its last show on Saturday, or to its last meet. It wasn't really a show. And the problem is everyone who likes the Rolls doesn't have the money. And everyone who has the money hates it. So it falls in a bit of a no man's land, which I get, it is sacrilegious, but that was kind of the point. So yeah, I'm getting, to go back to the point, it's a 1967 Pontiac Bonneville. I don't know if the front end has been swapped, but it has the exact same front end that for those of you who remember the old Dodge Charger Super B in Gran Turismo 6, the one with the huge split grille where the headlights would rotate like the covers came around. It's that era of Pontiac, but it's a hearse. So it's even bigger than the Lincoln. It's 19 feet long, 6'8" wide, however tall, I don't know. It's got the extended roof, and it's built by a company called Superior Coaches, which is the same company that built the Ghostbusters car, which obviously is a Cadillac estate. So they would take these cars, brand new, and they would coach build them into ambulances, hearses, all that kind of stuff, and then they'd sell them brand new to a company. So I reckon what's happened is, because like I said, it's come from California, I reckon it was obviously sold brand new to a funeral home. They had it for however long you have a funeral car for, I'm not sure. And then I reckon they sold it cheap, probably upgraded their fleet. And then some guys like, I'm going to hot rod that, because at some point it's had a motor swap. So now it's got a big block Buick engine. Not sure why. It's probably just what the guy had lying around. So it's a 401 Cube. Not sure if it's a nailhead, which is an iconic Buick engine, but it's a 6.6 V8, about 320 horses, and it's got a flame job on it. So it's matte black, really patinaed, with yellow flames coming down the front. So I'm actually kind of excited as well, because it's technically going to be my first yellow car, and yellow is my favorite color, so it's taken a while. I need to catch up with a bit of the chat here. So Autostadt is the place where we have... scroll up a bit, hang on. Volkswagen Group. Oh, cool. I haven't actually been to Germany, so there are probably a few different places, if I were there, that I would want to visit. Obviously, I'd want to go on the Autobahn, go to the Nürburgring. But yeah, sure, I guess. Like I said, I've never been. I haven't traveled as much because I've never been a huge traveler. Like, it didn't really interest me. The older I get, the more I'm interested in doing that. But yeah, when I was young, plus, like I said, after college, I couldn't afford it anyway, so there's no point in traveling. About to buy Daihatsu Core. Oh, nice. I can't remember what the 2002 Gen looks like now. But the turbo engine swap sounds good. Yeah, go for it. I always like the Daihatsu Core Avanzato, the one that we used to have in Gran Turismo, the ones that are usually silver, the TRXX. And I love the Daihatsu Move TRXX, which is one that's got like a big ass 5-head. But yeah, I love my Syrian. To be honest, probably the best car I've ever owned. It's certainly been the most reliable car I've ever owned. It has never broken down, like not once, which I guess compared to the other cars I've had isn't saying much. But so let's catch up. More K cars. Yeah, I'd love to have more K cars. I'm a huge fan of K cars. One of my favorite DLC packs in Forza Horizon 5, which is on here right now, is the Japanese, like the toy car stuff. Like, it's got the B1, the POW, the Figaro, and that little van. I can't remember the name of that van one with like the frog face on the front. But yeah, I love K cars. Love that kind of stuff. And it's funny because in the UK, some of our stuff is kind of K car-ish. A course for driving the Touareg. Oh, that's cool. I haven't driven, I guess it wouldn't be the current Touareg now. I drove the Touareg Black Edition with, what is it, like the hybrid system, I think it was. Beautiful car to drive. I'd really love to drive a Touareg R. That thing is a beast. As far as Pagani, I mean, I'd love to see older Paganis coming back. I'd love to see Pagani's middle generation debut in Gran Turismo, because we've never had the Zonda F, we've never had a Cinque, never had a Tricolore. We've had the Zonda R, which is that same kind of era, but yeah, like I said earlier, I love the Zonda F, and I think it's a huge misstep to not feature that era. And even Forza, they've got close. They've had the Cinque, but that's like the closest thing. I actually wanted a Storia Cross 4. Obviously, that's what made me love the Daihatsu in the first place. But the problem is, last I checked, there was one for sale. It's still in Japan, so it's like another 2 or 3 grand to get it here, and it's 10 grand to buy a Daihatsu Storia. Whereas my Daihatsu, I paid like £1,900 for it, which is like the cheapest car I've ever bought. And yeah, obviously that car's paid for itself many times over. And to be honest, as much as I love the Cross 4, I don't know if it's worth 5 of mine, because that's a big difference on price. Yeah, I'll have to let you know, Andrew. It would be fun. There's plenty of like automotive related stuff I'd like to do in different countries, but yeah, it's a case of getting around to it. One of the things I really wanted to do, and I probably shouldn't say this because some other channel will probably steal it, but I wanted to arrange with different circuits starting in the UK to do like real circuit tours. So basically like a track day, but in a way that's like free advertising for them. But, you know, most of them don't need that kind of free advertising. And it just didn't really happen. But that was an idea which I kind of wanted to do. That's the one, yeah, the Nissan S Cargo. Hang on. Did Nissan name it that as a joke? I feel like I'm reading too much into that, but the Nissan S Cargo, and it looks like a snail. I wonder if that was a deliberate joke, because that escargot is obviously the French snail meal, and that van looks exactly like a snail. and it's got like the lights that look like their eyes on stalks. I wonder if that was a deliberate thing, or I'm just like late to the party on that. The Nissan S Cargo. If that wasn't deliberate, that's a really good joke. That's a really good turn of chance if they didn't intentionally do that. It would make sense if the name was a joke, because the power is named after bread, so they clearly are going in for like weird names. Am I going to go for the World Series? No. I've only ever been to one Gran Turismo live event, and it was, well, the video's on the channel way back, and that was the press event before GT Sport even came out, and it's the only time I've ever done a live race. I finished like 4th, I think. Some other channel uploaded my race, because obviously I was driving, but it's one of the only times I've been on a wheel as well. It was all right, but yeah, I'm not really into the esports stuff at all. Watching it, doing it, just doesn't interest me in the slightest in any game. I would like to ask, well, would I? I feel like Kaz doesn't have a clue who I am. But secondly, if he did, he wouldn't want to talk to me anyway. Because I'm not a company man. I'm not a yes man. I can be, but when it comes to Gran Turismo, I care about it too much. So what a lot of people take as that being just attacking it, it's actually from a place of love. And I know that sounds like an easy excuse, but as many of you know, we get annoyed because we love it. It's the same as people who are like annoyed about the current state of Marvel, or most things, actually. Most things are, going down the plug hole, but it's because we care. The biggest thing that Hollywood needs to worry about is the same thing that gaming needs to worry about, and that isn't haters, it's apathy. You really have screwed up when people don't care anymore, not when people are angry, because now you've gone past anger to just, whatever. And now you're not making any money at all, even from haters. I think the problem with Polyphony is, and every time I reference this same thing, but if you go back to that thing I've said many times about Kaz was at the live event where the guys who were in the racing had a break between rounds or whatever it was, I don't recall the details, and they were playing the older games. He was shocked that they were playing the older games, that these younger guys were playing like Gran Turismo 2 and 3 and 4. He was shocked not only that they were playing it, but that they were enjoying it. That to me is one of the saddest things I've ever heard. Not because it's like, oh, Kaz, blah, blah, blah. You should know your own community. And I don't mean you should know every single person, but there is more than enough evidence online to show that every single age group has love for every single Gran Turismo game. So the fact that that was news to Kaz indicates to me not just that he doesn't know the pulse of his own community, but that he clearly hasn't even cared to look. And I get being busy. We're all busy. If you care about something, you can make time for it. So, yeah, that's concerning to me. I would also love to see Koenigsegg in Gran Turismo. I could see it happening, to be honest. I don't know which one they'd add. I guess most likely would probably be a Jesko. Maybe an Agera, if anything. And on the point of PR with Polyphony, I think the one thing that they really need to do, and I don't know if this is part of Japanese culture or whatever, or maybe just particularly with them, they need to recognize their own limitations. Kaz, from day one, as we've talked about many times, was going to make a game that was way too hard. And the other guys, sorry to the guy, I don't recall his name, but one of the other guys on the team got him to rein that in and make it more accessible. If that other guy or some equivalent hadn't have existed, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because many of us wouldn't have even bothered playing, because it would be like a 90s version of Assetto Corsa, and I wouldn't have been playing that at all, as I don't with Assetto Corsa. So having leadership doesn't mean that every idea you've got is the best. You can't just be yes man. You can't surround yourself by yes men. So Kaz's problem is that he seems to be becoming more internalized, or at least the scraps of information that we get seem to be it's all about Kaz and it's all about his vision. And the problem is the bigger you get, the less you listen to your team, not more. And it should work the other way, but I just don't get that impression. So what I would like to see happen is for Kaz and for Polyphony as a whole to recognize, actually, we can't necessarily do all of this. Maybe we should outsource other stuff. So as I believe I might have mentioned before, I would love a Gran Turismo game or an alternate timeline wherein Polyphony handles the primary game, but then the entire rally side of the game is handled by like Codemasters or, whatever equivalent, somebody who just does rally, or get, whatever. At this point, if you brought back Tourist Trophy, get the help of like Milestone Games who make Ride. This is never going to happen. But to me, collaboration always makes a better product. Look at the best cars of all time. McLaren F1, British design, German engine. Pagani Zonda, Italian design, German engine. When countries come together, when great minds come together, the product is always better. Anyway, I've never actually used the LAN in GT4. I remember trying to once, and I also, the only steering wheel I ever had as a kid, I tried on GT4, and it was absolutely useless. I think it was too primitive. It was more like a switch. You'd like turn it, and there'd be nothing, 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 and then it would turn like there was massive dead zone. You could have probably adjusted that, but that was also in like 2006, so wheels probably weren't that great back then. Yeah, they're kind of cursed with success. Andrew said about the problem with Kaz, as with Volkswagen, is that a lot of people follow their own agenda because the companies are still too successful. There is a problem, I think, with being too big to fail, because the problem is no one's too big to fail. And one of the best examples of that is YouTube being terrified by how quickly TikTok grew, justifiably. And I do think it's a shame that didn't make YouTube a better place. Because if anything, all it did was add short form videos. And who cares about that anyway? They didn't learn enough from that. YouTube should have learned, oh, actually, we can't rest on our laurels here. And Gran Turismo, more than ever, can't rest on their laurels because there are so many new start-out games. There are games like Forza going from strength to strength, maybe not with the later game, but even then, all these complaints about motorsport, and now everyone loves it again because you got Fujimi Kaido back in there and a Mazda Furai. So, yeah, you can't be resting on your laurels. You've always got to look to the future. Problem is, Kaz is looking to the future in like weird ways. That's like, how can we make the leather steering wheel feel as realistic as possible when you've got the VR headset on? It's like priorities, man. Senna. Yeah, the Senna stuff would be cool. I think I'd probably prefer to see the Senna stuff from GT6 or something like that. I mean, imagine if, I don't know how you'd work this with licensing and names and stuff, but imagine if we got like, you would take on different racing drivers or different lap records on different tracks. So take on like Stefan Belof's time at the Nürburgring and stuff like that, like historic lap times. And maybe you would use the car that they were in, if the car's in the game. So in the case of Stefan Beloff, that was what, 6 minute 11 in a Porsche 956 or a 962, I can't remember which. Take on the cars in the game, take on the time, but then compare that to the Hamilton one, which was paid DLC as well. Didn't enjoy that anywhere near as much as the Senna stuff for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to do that. And then what was it in GT5? We had a similar thing. What was it? The Sebastian Loeb, I think, in GT5, taking on something to do with that. I'm a bit vague on the memory, but Jaguar's downfall. Part of what I do outside of YouTube is I talk about cars for a living, and I talk about a lot of Jaguars, used Jaguars, not new ones. I tagged Jaguar, not that they would see me anyway, on Twitter saying like, Jag, I do this. I talk about you already for a living. Call me. And obviously they don't care, and I would be the last person they'd call. But yeah, they I don't know. They went through the classic stages of like, we're doing this bold new thing because nobody's ever done this multicolored thing before, and then they do it, and then people are like, what the hell is this? And then they're like, oh, you just don't get it. You normies, like, we're so ahead of the curve and you'll catch up. And then meanwhile, fast forward however long it is now, and they're like, we're firing our PR team. We're going in a new direction. Like, yeah, welcome to the party, Jag. We were here when you first did it. But yeah, there's way too much saving face, and companies can't afford, metaphorically and literally, to show like weakness, which is a shame, because I feel like if you just suck it up and give the people what they want, sometimes people would like that more, But yeah, clearly Jag is going in a different direction. I don't think there's any fundamental issue with some of the stuff that Jag wants to do. Like electric cars are here now. You can't change that. But making that exclusively the way you go, see, the problem is it's not a problem. The thing that Jaguar seems to have forgotten is that the customer wants choice. So if you don't give someone a choice, they're going to be like, well, if you don't want to give me a choice, I don't want your product. Forget it. And yeah, Joseph, I'm kind of a model car collector. I've got quite a few of them. as you can see, a lot of Gran Turismo inspiration. Yeah, I've got them all around the room basically, but I stopped buying them because I got most of the ones I wanted, and I also didn't have that much more space, and I didn't want to start filling up other rooms in the house. But yeah, I've got most of the ones I wanted now. I actually damaged one of my cars the other day. None of you will probably remember this, apart from maybe Driff. He'll remember. But when I first unboxed my Venturi, which is the rarest car I've got, I dropped it and the wing cracked. Only 1,500 of them made. The other day, I smashed a lampshade in here by mistake, and a piece of glass flew across the room and sliced the entire roof off of the Venturi. So the whole thing is off. And talk about like a sharp bit of glass, I guess. But yeah, it's typical. It's like something about that Venturi just attracts damage. It's weird. I'd much rather that than the Espas, though, because for those who don't know, I do have an Espas F1 model. And if that had been damaged, I would have rioted. Yeah, I do get that a lot, Z. And you're the second person on the stream to ask about the t-shirt. You can't get it technically. I mean, you could if you made it yourself, but I make myself custom shirts and then remove the designs because I don't want to get into any kind of legal stuff with, I don't know who has the rights to helmet and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got a couple of these I did. I think I've got 4 different oversized ones. I've got one that's just got Lincoln because, of course, I've got one that's got Maserati, just the logo. This one, and then I've got one that's got Panos in the big red with the cloverleaf Panos logo. Problem with that one, though, is it fades in the sun because it's bright red. But yeah, most of my shirts are custom. And yeah, most people, I think the way I've described it to people in the past is I sound like I collect trains and I look like I build them. But yeah, I'm 31. So I'm younger than I look, but a lot younger than I sound. And I also probably look I look older now because I've lost some weight, but then younger again because I trimmed off the beard. So I'm like up and down, back and forth. Chinese cars, I have been thinking about that a lot, to be honest, about the rise of Chinese cars, because I don't fundamentally have anything against any country's cars doing better. But the thing about it being China is you always do think like people made jokes about what if everyone gets the Teslas to all drive to one location. With China, I feel like something like that would be more likely to happen, like your car turning against you kind of thing. And a lot of that is conspiracy territory. But yeah, I don't know. I want to like them, like the Neo EP9 and stuff like that. It's very cool. And I think if I were to give advice to China, I would give two bits of advice. One, better names. Most Chinese companies have rubbish car names, like the Chongqing GT or whatever. Like, it's not even racist at this point. Like, nobody cares about nobody cares about this name. It's got to be a catchy name for people to remember. And I would also advise them, if they don't already, get Italian designers to work for you, up and coming people. Design your car to look like this gorgeous, make like a Chinese Alfa Romeo or like a Chinese Maserati. Then you'll start to interest people more. And they've kind of tried to, like the Neo EP9 looks cool. And I think if you mean making this a convertible, that's just because the roof is like a thin line, I guess, because it didn't print properly. Not technically a face reveal. I am in every Beards and Cars review. MG. Well, there's an example. That's how China has done well. Taken over MG, but they haven't just reinvented MG as a Chinese thing. They've kept the spirit of MG's like visuals, the black and green, the racing, like touring car stuff, having a supercar in there. They've tried to still appeal to some of the old guard of MG while pushing it forward with like the Cyberster and stuff like that. I think that's actually quite a good approach, what MG have done, or what whoever it is that owns MG have done. Cupra, I haven't driven one. I'm not really a fan of that being its own brand. I get it. But to me, there's more ground for Toyota making Lexus or Nissan making Infiniti than there is for Seat having Cupra. It's like, that's literally the equivalent of like Volkswagen turning GTI into a brand. Like, it was just the performance model. It doesn't need to be its own brand. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Cupra. I haven't driven any. To be honest, I don't care to drive any. They kind of bore me. But yeah, Thanks, Manny. I'm going up in the chat a little bit. I've seen, Nissan is in trouble. They were trying to do that merger, weren't they, with Honda, but then Honda basically wanted total control, and it's like, well, do you want to die, or do you want, Honda to take over? I guess they made the choice, but personally, I think Honda would do them well. What else have we got? Opinion on Volkswagen, Ford, and Mahindra. Well, obviously, I like Fords because my favorite car I've had is a Lincoln, which is Ford. Speaking of branding, like Lexus to Toyota, except Lincoln is how you do it properly. And even they made the mistake back in the late 50s and early 60s. They tried to turn Lincoln and Continental into two different things, and that didn't work. So even when you do it right, you can still push that too far. But yeah, I like Ford. I'm not a huge fan of Fords themselves generally. There are some that I really like the Mark II Focus RS and obviously the GT40. But I wouldn't say I'm a huge Ford guy. I've had one actual Ford, which was my 66 Galaxy, which isn't really a Ford in the way that most people call it. That's, Ford America. Mahindra, I know the name, don't know much about them. Volkswagen, I love Volkswagen. I've had two. I had a Golf R32 and the Touareg V10. Two of the best cars I've ever had. I love V-dubs. They do have a bit of a reputation in the UK, but I think a lot of those reputations come from just young people ragging them and not taking care of them. Oh, the Venturi, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I did, because the way it chopped off the roof, it did remind me of that, what was it, that one-off Ferrari F40 LM that had the chopped off roof that was in yellow instead of red. It just kind of looks like that now. Beetle, yeah, I mean, I've got a bit of a squeaky chair. I would like to see the road-going version of the Group 3 Beetle, so like the newer shape. And technically, there is a precedent there for that because there's the Beetle GSR, which is the 200 horsepower version that's in Drive Club. I talked about that in the members section not that long ago. Q Driff reminded me how long ago that actually was. But yeah, of course, for me, a Beetle RSI, it's one of my dream cars. But even the Beetle GSR, that's like period correct to the racing and road version. So yeah, I'd like to have that in there. It's an iconic car for a reason. I think the Beetle should come back in real life as well. And I think they probably will bring it back, but it will be fully electric. What else have we got? Proton. I wasn't aware Proton had a newer EV. I might have seen it and forgot. Tesla. I have driven a Tesla. I drove a Model S P85, but it wasn't the dual motor. It was the, I think, 540 horsepower rear-wheel drive version. So it was quick, but it's one of the most boring cars I've ever driven. The way I describe it to everyone is it's an iPhone with a steering wheel. It's just boring. It just feels totally emotionless. And I cannot forgive them for that because electric cars give you more freedom than any other car when it comes to design because it's all in the bottom of the car. You could make a Tesla Model S look like my Lincoln, and there is no reason why they can't. You can have the headlights at the right height, have the pedestrian crumple zones. You could still do all of that. Because let's be honest, most of that is about the materials you make the car with, not the actual shape. So yeah, Tesla's a great idea on paper, but then in practice, not so much. Compare that to the Jaguar. I drove the I-Pace. Way, way more enjoyable. Because what you should do is what Jaguar did. And obviously, they recalled them for battery fires, surprise, surprise, but make a good car first, and then if it happens to be electric, that's how to do it. Whereas the Tesla feels electric, like everything about it feels like a kitchen appliance. And speaking of Lotus earlier on, I love the Lotus electric cars. If I could afford one, I would love a Lotus Elite, the SUV. There's just something about that. They've sold like 30 of them worldwide or something horrific, but I love that SUV. I think it's an awesome looking thing. It's not the quickest, but again, it's not the point because it looks to me like it's been made with some thought behind it. And I think, who's that behind Lotus now? Is it Geely or something these days, I think? Yeah, I had a Galaxy. Like I said, it was a 66 Galaxy, but I had a country sedan. So it was the station wagon, kind of like the Ford Country Squire in Forza. But mine had the 289 Cube V8, so it's very underpowered. Trying to catch up because the chat keeps jumping. A Fiesta. I'm assuming that in your case, Driff, the Fiesta's a bit different there to here in the UK. Isn't the Fiesta more of like a little sedan rather than a hatchback or something? Or is it the same over there? Because yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've driven a Fiesta yet. No, I don't think so. Yeah, speaking of Robert saying the electric GTR, I think Mitsubishi will bring back an Evo, and it will be either a hybrid, and I said this like 5-6 years ago, or fully electric, and I think they'll call it the Revolution, REV, as in EV and Evolution, and it'll be like an Evo 11, and it'll probably have like 500 and something horsepower. I don't mind Kias either. I'd really like to drive a Kia Stinger. For Quang's question, we do have a Discord. It's linked right below. There's I don't know how many people on there, like 1,300 people on there or something. But yeah, we've already got a Discord. Yeah, Honda buy Nissan and fix the GTR. Well, see, when I say that Honda should take over Nissan, I think of that as more like the Toyota sense, which is that they do a really good job of selling a lot of normal cars. But Honda has some trouble when it comes to how high up they try to go. Because just look at the new NSX. What a machine, but nobody bought it. And so I don't think Honda really does top-tier performance, or at least top-tier performance sales, because literally every time they try to make a supercar, it's failed. The new NSX failed. The old NSX failed. Like every time, it's this car that people love, like the Lexus LFA, but at the time, it just didn't sell. And that's a shame. Whereas they seem to basically top out around the Civic kind of region, and I think they need to probably stick to that because they do very well there. I did hear something, I remember hearing Celica about the Silvia, and speaking of your name, they're bringing the Celica back, aren't they, as well? Mitsubishi Eclipse or an Evo 7? Well, obviously I'm biased because I had an Evo 7, but mine was the automatic version, so it's not quite comparable. I've always liked the Eclipse, to be honest. I like the Eclipse that had the bigger grille. I think it was a facelift or something, but not the one, not like a 2006 Fast and Furious shape. I mean, still the 90s one that looks like a Supra with the big spoiler, but it got like the big square grille. You can see the big, I think it's the intercooler, either the intercooler or the radiator, I want to say, behind it, from memory at least. And it's got the driving lights in the bumper. I think that's a good looking car. To be honest, I think it's better looking than a Supra, as sacrilegious as that is to say. Pikes Peak, that's a weird one, because all the cars have Gran Turismo on the window, but we've learned that doesn't really mean much. It could. I mean, it could come back. Problem is, if they bring back Pikes Peak now, it wouldn't even be a rally because it's tarmac all the way up, which is still cool. But new Renault 5, yeah, it's cool. I like the turbo, but as with all electric cars, it will probably be stupidly expensive. Morgan and Ginetta. Morgan, I'm not as much of a fan of as you would think. Ginetta, I do love. I'm more of a Marcos guy over either of those. But yeah, I like Ginetta. I respect Morgan, for what they've managed to do just more and more over the years. Yeah, the Lotus Emeya, I think that's the 4-door, isn't it? That's the super saloon. I'd probably rank that third out of the 3 electric ones. I don't like it quite as much. But my number 2 would be the Avia, the hypercar. That's really grown on me. I'm using that at the moment in Forza, actually. And my favorite of theirs is definitely the SUV. But it's a shame because people clearly don't agree because they're not selling any, which is a shame. I guess it's because you don't go to Lotus for that. No, Tugra, I am on the channel a lot, but it tends to be... See, this is the problem with YouTube. So many of... Well, not so many, only a couple of people here, but a couple of people think it's a face reveal. There are literally hundreds of videos of me on the channel. Like every episode of Beards and Cars has me in the video, but clearly it's not showing people those videos. It's just such a broken system, but... Ford Explorer. Yeah, I don't have any. Is the Ford Explorer, is that the one that they based the Lincoln Navigator on? I think. Or is that the Expedition? I can't remember which. Recently, before getting this hearse, or what I will get, I was going to get a Navigator to do the motorway driving, because I thought, well, I've already had an Escalade and I like it, but I'm more of a Lincoln guy anyway. So I thought about getting a Navigator because they're cheaper as well. And there's a Navigator for sale. It's ridiculous. It's still on eBay, actually. It's been for sale for like 5 years or something. It still doesn't have a number plate, and it's bright laser blue. I mean, it literally looks like a loading screen from Need for Speed Underground 2. It has Lambo doors. It's like underglow neon. It's got like 25-inch rims. It looks so stupid, but I love it. But yeah, obviously I'm not getting that now. I remember on the point of a mid-engine GTR, I remember for a while, I don't know if this has gone away, but there was a lot of speculation about the new GTR, like the R36, essentially looking like the Vision GT. I don't really know how I feel about that, because I feel like if it did, then that would be just like hypercar territory, which I just don't know who's buying a Nissan hypercar, you know? Like R390 maybe, but the only reason why people want that is because of Le Mans. Whereas this thing, unless they take it to Le Mans in the hypercar class, which I don't see happening, it's possible, but I don't see it happening. Just, I don't know. Rallycross, yeah, more rally in every form in Gran Turismo, and it's not like this is new. You know, the entirety of Gran Turismo's history, rally has always been an afterthought, which is such a shame. And one of the problems I think that's always inherent to Gran Turismo is the invisible walls, or even visible walls. It just completely breaks the immersion when you can wall ride the whole thing. And I'm not saying that you need to have like a Forza Horizon size map, but at least be able to crash through a wall and then like have the car reset, you know, just make it a bit more realistic. But oh, the Expedition right here. Cheers, Droll. Lamborghini Temerario. Which one's that now? I recognize the name. I can't. What Lambo is that? Oh, that one. My thoughts on Lamborghini are basically exactly the same as my thoughts on McLaren, which is, oh, look, they made another one of the same thing for the 15th time. Yeah, that's my point. That I thought the R36 was the Vision GT. But maybe not. I don't know. I also thought I saw a pretty cool render, which was like the R35 shape, but then it had a very R34 inspired front end. It's probably still on Google if you look it up. But that looked pretty cool. I don't know if it's maybe a bit too soon to bring back an R34 already. You know, that's part of the problem these days. Nostalgia works because there's been time passed. You know, you miss it. It's why stuff like my Lincoln are so popular at car meets, because it's 58 years old. It's not like last week. And now we're getting to the point where, I mean, look at Marvel. Again, to go off on a tangent, but it's applicable. Robert Downey Jr. is back again to play Doom. When it feels like yesterday he was Iron Man. And it's desperation. It just reeks of desperation. It's like, oh, remember this thing you liked last week? Like, you've got to let it sit, let it wait. And people just aren't doing that anymore. They're bringing back things immediately. Like, remember? Yeah, I remember. It just doesn't work. Because the problem is you end up in this loop of nostalgia that ends up being such a short time frame that you get into like facelift names every week, and then you end up with like the new Ford Capri, which is one of the worst ideas I've ever seen. Just call it literally anything else. Or the Mustang Mach-E. In fact, it's Ford that's pretty consistently doing those stupid names. The one car I'd never get rid of is the one I referenced, Abe, my 68 Lincoln Continental. Took him to a show yesterday. All young people, all like, you know, 1 Series Beamers, Golf Rs, all that kind of stuff. Abe attracted more attention than everything. Every time I literally just turned him on, immediate crowd around the car. Because you just can't beat that, you know, 1968. People just love a muscle car. And he's not even a proper muscle car. He's a luxury car, but it's close enough. Yeah, I think Abe's the one that I'll never get rid of. The one that I regret getting rid of is the other Lincoln, the Lincoln Premier. I do miss her. But she had a bent chassis, so that was going to cost a lot of money to get it fixed. Yeah, they did do the electric GTR. They premiered it at some, I think it was the Tokyo Auto Salon or something like that, some car show. I don't think they ever had any intention of producing it. It was just like to showcase what they could do or something like that. But yeah. Yeah, as Driff said, or as Driff alluded to, nostalgia is a fantastic thing, but you have to use it in the right way. It's like salt. Like you dump salt onto a meal. Who wants that? Oh, the Spearling, the McMurtry Spearling, the one that sucked upside down because it had so much ground effect. That would be cool. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a pretty pointless car. That's the exact kind of car that in GT Sport would have been in X Class, and you'd have never been able to use it. Because I mean, let's be honest, it's basically like a Vision GT in terms of what it's like, except it's actually a good one. But yeah, it'd be cool in there. But again, I could see the Spearling being more of a Forza thing than Gran Turismo, which I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, he is a muscle brute. I've got a mod in mind that I want to do to him because he needs a little bit of work doing at the moment. I've had a couple of things done and a couple more things coming up. And at the moment, he's got a pair of 4x1s at the back, standard original pipes. Well, standard. And what I'd like to do is, because we're going to have his engine out at some point to do cylinder head gaskets. And when we do that, I'd like to put custom manifolds on with 8 pipes sticking up out the top of the bonnet and have yellow tipped pipes like an old fighter plane or an old bomber plane. But he'd be so loud. I don't know if I'd get away with that because he's already extremely loud. And a couple of the videos that people took at the car meet yesterday, because obviously when I'm in Abe, I never get to see back there. And it turns out he spits flames because when he backs off and backfires, backfires, not misfires, and the unburnt fuel pops, yeah, he shoots a flame out the back, which is pretty cool. And it's not like a pop and bang map because it's 58 years ago, so there weren't even computers back then. It's like actual pop and bang. Mini and rally, yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, really, that they tried it, wasn't it? Weren't they in WRC? I think touring cars. Sure, yeah. I mean, the legacy of the Mini back in the day was how competent it was at loads of different forms of racing. I think more so rally than on the road, but I mean, Marcos turned it into a Le Mans car. It was the only British car to finish the race, so yeah, they could do it for sure. Yeah, the McMurtry does look a bit like a toy. And because of how narrow, it's almost like, to go back to the conversation earlier, it looks like a K car hypercar because it's super narrow, really tall. Or it looks really tall because of how narrow it is. V16 on late brake. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Abe's extreme. I don't know what the decibels are on Abe, but he's got the biggest engine Lincoln ever made, so it's very loud. He's a 462 cube, and here in the UK we don't see that many cars with that size engine. And obviously he wasn't sold here; he was imported here. But yeah, he's a 7.6 V8, so he makes plenty of noise. Yeah, I follow a lot of other channels, but almost no car channels because I don't like being influenced by other people. The only automotive YouTuber I follow is Jay Leno, because he does the kind of content that I like, which is kind of just appreciating cars rather than like a review. What other channels do I follow? Let's have a look. I do some of the highlights. Brett Weinstein, that's a bit of a random one, nothing to do with cars. Creepcast, which is Wendigoon and Papa Meat from Meat Canyon. Good Mythical Morning. Nerdrotic for movie stuff. Penguin Z0, which is I'm blanking on his name now. You know him. PewDiePie, not that he really posts much anymore. Some Ordinary Gamers. Mudaha. Synonymous for Fallout stuff. Tim Dillon, because he's hilarious. Your Mum's House Studios, which is Tom Segura's podcast. So yeah, I'm a bit all over the place for YouTube stuff. Yeah, that's it. Most critical. But yeah, I watch YouTube to get away from the stuff that I do, not to watch the stuff that I do, you know? So it's funny because at car meets, when people say like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, oh, I do YouTube. And they're like, oh, do you know this guy? Or, oh, did you watch this video from such and such, like Donut or whoever the other day? And I'm like, nah, I have no idea what you're talking about, because I just don't watch that kind of stuff. I will very occasionally watch something if it's brought up, like I'm blanking on his name right now, but that absolutely brilliant British engineer who builds his own engines. He's currently restoring one of my favorite obscure motorbikes, the Norton Nemesis, and it's the same guy who built, is it like Andy or something? I think he rebuilt. In fact, I need to do him the credit of looking up his name. He built that Dodge Viper engined motorbike that broke the pillion speed record. What is his name? Alan Millyard. That's his name. He's an engine builder, among many other things, and he is superb. The engines he builds are amazing. Yeah, I think he did 207 miles an hour with a pillion on the back on a Viper-powered motorbike. Yeah. He actually did what Dodge didn't do with the Tomahawk bike. And yeah, he's rebuilding. I haven't checked in a while, but he's rebuilding the Norton Nemesis motorcycle, which is a 1.5 V8 superbike. And it was like a 220 mile an hour concept bike that never actually obviously reached production. But yeah, he's last I checked, he was trying to rebuild it. I don't know how that's going, but yeah, I mean, we've been going for, time's gone pretty quick, well over an hour. So I'll probably end the stream soon, I think. But yeah, it was just a catch up, really. Oh, and another thing I did write down to add was special projects and updates in GT. For updates in GT, I don't have any news on that at the moment. I could see it being probably more like end of the month. Obviously, this month it goes without saying I'm not doing special projects because they, Kaz kind of messed up the order of releasing stuff. So special projects will skip May and come back next month instead. I don't actually know what the 10 cars will be yet. Sometimes I actually decide what they're going to be like a day or two before it actually happens, because I've got a whole list of ones which I haven't done yet, and then I add new ones and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the plan moving forward with special projects. I don't know how long, to be honest, special projects will go on for, because at a certain point you can only build so many cars in the game. You can only do so many replicas. So I don't know how many. I don't know how many I'll do, but for now, there's still more, obviously. But I don't want to reach the point where the special projects become too vague. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like somebody, for example, would ask me, could you do a special projects replica of like a Huracan SVO? And it's like, no, not really, because the aero is no way near making it look accurate, So yeah, I don't want to reach that point with special projects. And then whatever the next game is, we'll do it there. I'm still doing that in Forza as well, or I will be doing some in Forza. Cheers, Driff. I will probably head off now. So yeah, hopefully the bike journey does go well. I said recently in a members vid, I'm hoping to get back in the saddle this year, because it's been a while since I rode motorbikes. 5 years, probably at this point, something like that. Part of that is going to depend on if I can fit a bike in the back of the hearse, which I should be able to find that out tomorrow. For length, it will definitely fit, and for width, it will fit. I'm not sure if the hearse will be high enough to get a motorbike in the back, but I like the idea of fitting some straps inside and using the car as a garage for the bike, kind of like when people go to track days and take a truck with the car inside it, kind of thing. Special projects with just Suzuki carries. Do one that's like a race truck, one that's a drift truck, one that's a sleeper truck, one that's a street food truck. Will I do more of these. Probably at some point. Yeah, I don't know when. I just did it today to be something a bit more casual because I didn't fancy making a normal video and just catching up on a few things and doing a bit of a Q&A. But I don't know. I'm not going to commit to when I'll do the next one, but yeah, I'll probably do another one at some point. But yeah, I will see you guys next time then, I guess. I don't know if this will still be live after or if I'll have to release it. Or not live, you know, public. But we'll see. And see you in a bit. And as always, thanks for watching.